So, you just got into Tokusatsu, watched over thousands of hours worth of content, and now you're burnt out. That's okay. We've all been there.
Marcosatsu.
You're probably going to read the title and be like, oh, of course it's okay to be burnt out by Tokusatsu. You just take a break, move on, and then come back maybe later. There's nothing video. But I actually wanted to talk more about my experiences, the experiences I've seen from other people, and how maybe just not watching Tokusatsu is a good thing. That's going to come off extremely wrong. There's also making a lot more noise when I'm moving around, so I'm just going to take it off. Taka from Taka Toy Store gifted me this a couple years back. It's really cool. It's the Japanese version. You can tell because it actually does more than the American version. We've probably all been there. You get into Tokusatsu, it's this magical thing where you can watch tons and tons of content from Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, Ultraman, Garo, everything you can imagine. And then you just watch nonstop, and then after a while you're like, okay, that's it. I don't think I want to watch anymore. I can't even keep up with the new shows coming out. And then you just get burned out. I'm going to state a couple of obvious things here. Not because I don't think you know, but because it probably is going to be a good thing for someone like me to say, yes, it's okay to be burned out by all this content. It's okay to be burned out by, for example, Marvel movies that come out one after another, and all these shows and all this content that you just can't keep up with it. And in a way, Tokusatsu can feel very similar. Yearly shows, around 50 episodes each, with movies and side content, it is also a lot to keep up with. So an obvious point for me to start out with is saying, you don't have to keep up with all of it. I know some people who keep up with Super Sentai, some people only keep up with Kamen Rider, some people only keep up with Ultraman because there's a lot less Ultraman content than there is the other two. But even following just one of these shows could still feel like a lot. Like I said, there's 50 episodes plus movies and specials that all go along with just Kamen Rider or just Super Sentai. Meanwhile, Power Rangers is like, we have a 30th anniversary special coming in comics. And I don't mean to drag down Power Rangers, my bad. At times, it may feel like you have to keep up with all of it just to be in part of the discussions, part of the community, part of the fandom discussions around the latest episode or the latest development or plot twist, and you want to be part of that. I know as a Tokusatsu content creator, I kind of force myself to keep up with a lot of these shows, at least at first. Then you start to realize, oh, you don't have to keep up with Kamen Rider Geats. In fact, you might even not want to watch certain shows. And you could just skip out on some of these shows. You could feel like you don't want to watch them, they're just not for you, certain reasons like that. I like Kamen Rider Revice, but then after like 10 or so episodes, I just dropped off from it because, well, I'll get back to it later. I don't have to watch it right now. Sure, I'll miss out on some of the fun discussions on it, but it's not the end of the world either. And after decades and decades of all this Tokusatsu, there's always going to be someone to discuss this with. I mean, maybe not like Goggle 5 or Showa era stuff or 5-Man or all these older shows, but there will always be someone out there to talk Tokusatsu with. And for me, part of the fun is looking back on all these discussions when I do research for like History of Kamen Rider or anything like that. It's kind of fun to look back on the things I missed out on and be like, oh wow, yeah, I actually did miss that on my first watch through. I'm glad someone picked that up, and it's super fun to see what the fandom discourse or what the latest plot twist felt like during that time. And then the second point is the one everyone's gonna know, it's super obvious, is that you can take a break from this. But I'm gonna add a little blasphemous point to that and say it's okay to just stop watching altogether. Of course, you can take a break and come back later, but I also mean that you can decide to just stop watching Tokusatsu, maybe not for the rest of your life, but just for a long, long time. You don't have to keep watching. I've met a couple of people through Tokusatsu who absolutely just loved like Kamen Rider 01 and Kamen Rider Amazons and all of that. And then they just stopped watching Tokusatsu altogether. Not just Kamen Rider or Sentai, just Tokusatsu as a whole altogether. And you know what I mean by Tokusatsu. I'm not saying like live action, everything for the rest of your life. No, I mean just this Tokusatsu medium specifically. And hey, we're still friends. We still talk about other things, not just Tokusatsu. But to some people, it could feel like, oh, I got everything I wanted out of this medium. I watched all the shows I wanted to. The rest doesn't interest me. All right, time to move on to another interest or another hobby, something else. Tokusatsu, I watched it, it was good. Time to move on to something else. I've certainly felt the burnout a couple of times, especially as a content creator, having to pretty much watch all these shows and force myself to keep up with what I could. Trying to make all these long form contents around like Kamen Rider and these other shows. And there are some shows I just didn't even want to bother with, that I didn't want to watch whatsoever, but I forced myself to do it to make more content for YouTube. There were even a couple of shows I disliked to the point where I was just like, do I even like Tokusatsu? But I was self-doubting myself at that point, and probably not the mindset everybody's going to be in. That might just be me. And then I did pretty much what you're expected to do. You take a break. Don't have to watch Tokusatsu. You just take a break, do other things. For me, I liked to go outside and touch grass. I really like to go hiking. But for me, I'm also a ginormous gamer. I was actually watching more Tokusatsu than playing video games, and at that moment, I was like, oh no, what am I doing? So then I just stepped back from Tokusatsu and I started playing more video games. Elden Ring's one of my favorite games of all time now. I even watched other TV shows, although if I'm being honest, I don't even watch other things aside from Tokusatsu, which might actually contribute to the burnout. Maybe something on like Netflix or Hulu, Disney Plus, anything like that. And funnily enough, a few shows reminded me to watch Tokusatsu, like The Mandalorian. Maybe you've seen people compare it to like a Kamen Rider show or anything like that. And to me, I was missing that Kamen Rider flair and charm. So after I finished binging The Mandalorian, I actually went back and watched like some episodes of Kamen Rider Den-O and Kamen Rider Amazons, and it felt great to watch it again. But above all else, pretty much one of the most important points I really want to state and stress: it's important to look after your mental health. It's important to look after yourself. Well, I can safely say a lot of us absolutely adore Tokusatsu till the end of time. We will always love Tokusatsu. I'll always be watching Tokusatsu. That can also be kind of a double-edged sword. Like I mentioned earlier, it probably wasn't the best thing to only watch Tokusatsu, and I think that should go the same for you. It's important to realize there are other things. Fandom drama can be one thing, and it may feel like, oh, the community is just this toxic thing, but you also gotta remember, fandom, watching your favorite shows, any hobby, it is what you make of it. You know yourself better than I do, of course. So you gotta take time and step back and know that, yes, we love these shows. We will always love these shows. But there's a lot more to the world out there too. These shows will help you realize that there is a lot more to this world out there. Now it's time to experience it. So, do what makes you happy. Don't burn yourself out. Don't watch all these shows like I did in like one sitting. That is probably not a good thing to do. I mean, maybe like once in your lifetime, a couple times in your lifetime, something like that. I don't know. You know yourself better than I do. Do what makes you happy. And to me, Tokusatsu makes me happy. Video games make me happy. These toys make me really happy because they're really cool and I like them. So, it's okay to be burned out. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to do other things. Tokusatsu will always be there. And with all that being said, I'll see you next time.